Hey guys, so I am going to be reacting to this video. I am going to link it in the description. It is a video by a channel called More Brad Polumbo. So yeah, let's get into this here.
I, Dylan Mulvaney, have my very own Lush bath bomb. I'm gonna repeat that for all the
Was that a scream? What was the scream
twinks
for?
who just passed out. They are supporting the trans community by giving 75% of the purchase price, minus the taxes, to trans-led organizations working to ensure that trans people thrive.
And you lost me at the end there.
Right. How do you define trans people thriving?
Something tells me it's going to involve sex changes for kids, self-ID on your government documents, and non-binary.
What's wrong with self-ID on your government documents? How is that a bad thing?
X markers on passports. Hey guys, welcome back to another normal gays react video where we take on LGBT insanity.
LGBT insanity. Yeah, I know the direction that this video is going to take. It's going to be one of those, oh, look at the crazy gay people, but look at me, I'm not like them. I'm a normal gay. Please validate me.
From the perspective of gay guys who haven't quite lost our minds just yet. I'm Brad, TikTok influencer who people probably have heard of by now.
I wouldn't describe myself as a fan of Dylan, especially not of what made Dylan famous.
Yeah, no shit.
The days of girlhood, the caricature of women that he described, it wasn't for me. I thought it was a little bit offensive, and I'm not a woman, so I mean, I don't know. If I
don't really get offended by it because I feel like it wasn't really meant to be an accurate representation of womanhood. I almost feel like it was kind of meant to be over exaggerated and over the top.
As a woman, I'd be very angry at that. But the more I watch Dylan, the more I realize she is very likable and funny, and I enjoy some of her content for sure.
Yeah.
At least you're trying not to misgender her. I know it's hard for you. I know you're fighting the urge to misgender her, but at least you're trying to gender her correctly.
Yeah, Dylan seems like a warm person and doesn't seem to be coming from like a necessarily a dark place.
Yeah,
but a lot of Dylan's.
Well, honestly, it's probably because she knows that people are going to get outraged and be like, oh, she's making a mockery of women, and she knows that. I think that's I do kind of feel like it's similar to Lily Tino. Like, they're kind of rage baiting almost.
Dylan also has an entrepreneurial spirit and always seems to be getting in on one grift or another. So we're going to talk today about...
Yeah, like Lily Tino. Although I think Dylan Mulvaney is a much less annoying person.
Dylan's latest grift, which is trans activism fused bath bombs. Let's listen to this video.
I hate to be dramatic, but in some ways, this is the only thing that has ever mattered to me. I, Dylan Mulvaney, have my very own Lush bath bomb. I'm gonna repeat that for all the twinks who just passed out. I've partnered with Lush, and I have my own bath bomb. Drum roll, please. Here she is, my pride and joy, my baby, the late bloomer. And for those, before we get into her, who don't know the Dilly lore, I worked at Lush when I was an awkward feminine 16-year-old, and I spent every single dollar I made on bath bombs. And I would show up to work in my leggings and my crop tops, and it was like one of the only places that I felt safe and accepted as a queer teen. And to know that they not only supported me back then, but now over 10 years later are showing up for me in like such a major way, I can't even wrap my head around it. And they are supporting the trans community by giving 75% of the purchase price, minus the taxes, to trans-led organizations working to ensure that trans people thrive.
And you lost me at the end there.
Right. How do you define trans people thriving?
Something tells me it's going to involve...
I'm assuming it's trying to protect trans people from discrimination that still very much exists today.
Sex changes for kids, self-ID on your government documents, and non-binary X markers on passports. Something tells me that's what this is going to entail, Clark.
I mean, have you actually looked into the organization, or are you kind of just assuming because they're trans-led.
Otherwise, I really wouldn't care. Sell your bath bombs to your heart consent. I didn't need the boob drum roll was a bit much for me, but otherwise I wouldn't care here.
There's always a catch. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
way.
why I wish like Dylan gets a ton of hate, and a lot of it is probably over the top and disproportionate, but
I like how you admit that. I don't want to give you too much credit, but I like how you admit a lot of the hate for her is disproportionate and it's fueled by just blatant transphobia.
it's like you don't help yourself when you go and stick your nose in all this radical trans activism constantly.
What do you consider to be radical trans activism? Can you give me some specifics?
And even the bath bomb itself, they're not even just donating the money, but every bath bomb sold is going to come with a guide to allyship. And I looked at this document, and I sent you this document. We both went through it. And newsflash, this is a totally unhinged piece of like ideological literature. So here's one of the prongs. Don't tolerate disrespect and choose to educate, whether
Let me read this. Whether it's hurtful language, remarks, or jokes, call it out if it's inappropriate, build your community, and seek out further allies who will support you in this effort. Whenever you are able, educating the individuals responsible for the harmful behavior is I can't read the rest of it.
whether it's hurtful language, remarks, or jokes, call it out if it's inappropriate, build your community, and seek out further allies who will support you in this effort. Whenever you are able, educating the individuals responsible for the harmful behavior is a great way to ensure that trans and non-binary people aren't responsible for that emotional labor.
Doesn't sound that crazy to me. I mean, that's kind of what being an ally is, right? Like, if you choose to ally yourself with a cause, it makes sense to me that you would try to educate people, right? Like, it just doesn't sound that crazy.
It's emotional labor to be able to handle a joke. This is my problem.
Well, it's not just one joke. When you are receiving continuous ignorant jokes and people, not only are you expected to tolerate it, but you're expected to laugh along. And if you don't, people call you a snowflake. I do think that's emotional labor.
With a lot of these like LGBT activist groups is that nobody's teaching anyone to be resilient. And not even just like in the wake of criticism, but in the wake of
Be resilient. Be resilient, even though, I mean, a joke, to me, a joke is if the other person finds it funny. If you're just giving someone shit and they're not laughing, they don't find it funny, then it's not really a joke anymore.
jokes. Like everything should be able to be joked about. If you can't handle a joke, you're not really setting up the trans community for
I mean, you shouldn't, I mean, would you, I mean, I guess it depends on context. Because there's certain situations where it should be expected that people might joke about you or give you shit. But if you're just walking down the street and somebody jokes about, in this case, I mean, if you're a trans woman, if somebody jokes about you looking like a man or whatever, you don't really want to hear that joke because you're just trying to live your life. You're trying to mind your business. And you don't want random people trying to joke with you.
for success, because the world doesn't give a shit about your
No, and I'm sorry, anyone using the term emotional labor unironically, you've lost me.
Why? Emotional labor is a real thing.
Especially when what you're talking about is correcting people for like, I'm sure minor verbal tics.
Okay, well, yes, if it's just one person giving you a microaggression and you have to correct them, that might not be a big deal. But if it's you constantly have to deal with people's ignorance and microaggressions, and then if you aren't, like, laughing at it, people then call you too sensitive, that's tiring to deal with. If you're constantly getting shit on for this part of your identity, that gets tiring.
Or microaggressions or whatever. That is not emotional labor. That's just you being annoying.
It is emotional labor. If you're constantly being expected to educate people, and people are constantly coming up to you asking you these very invasive questions just because you're trans or you're gay or whatever, that is emotional labor. Because people are infringing on your time.
Paper.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's more.
Oh God.
Of course there is. Use gender-neutral language. Our everyday words and phrases are often gendered unnecessarily. By addressing a group with phrases like "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen," we exclude genders and exclude people. Consider using gender-inclusive language like "Hi, friends" or "Welcome, folks" instead. So people are actually, if they order one of Dilly's bath bombs, going to get a guide telling them to say "Welcome, folks" instead of "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen."
You know what? The type of person who's gonna buy this bath bomb definitely walks into a room and says, "Hey, friends." Like that's.
Or they say hi folks with an X.
I don't know. I don't say folks, but my folks do because they're from the South. So I don't think folks is as weird. But you
I have
know,
no issue with it. I just
yeah,
don't do it because you're pretending some people are neither gentlemen or gentle ladies. Like,
right. And that should encompass.
It's not a big deal though. It really isn't. It's like a small change you can make.
To everybody if we're actually accommodating people with dysphoria, because if you're dysphoric about a gender, you want to be the other gender, which
oh,
means
like you mean there's two?
Yep. Wow.
Well, apparently it's a spectrum though, because in this guide, let me read you this. Under its glossary of terms, it says biological sex is most often used to refer to the gender assigned at birth, which is often deduced by examining the external genitalia of a fetus or newborn. Though largely believed to be binary, sex is in fact a spectrum. No single factor defines sex. So here we just have the straight up misinformation. That's not true. Sex is binary. There are only two, male and female.
Let me look that up and see if it's true or not. AI overview. The concept of sex as a binary, male or female, is a traditional view, but it is not supported by scientific evidence. There is a wide range of variation in these factors, which means that people can have different combinations of sex characteristics that do not fit neatly into the binary categories of male and female. Sex is determined by a complex interplay of factors, including chromosomes, hormones, and gametes, eggs and sperm. Individuals with intersex conditions have variations in their chromosomes, hormones, or gametes that do not align with the typical male or female patterns. So I think that's kind of what they're getting at here. I'm not completely sure, but I would say saying that it's completely binary is probably not true.
Oh, they're based on the structure of your reproductive system. Then you have a tiny percentage of people who are intersex, but even most of
Yeah, I don't think it's just about your reproductive system. I think there's more to it than that.
them can actually be categorized as male or female by the gamete definition of biological sex. What type of sex cell or gamete do they produce, sperm or egg? Right. So, like, this is just straight up woke misinformation. And
It's not, though. If it's related to what I read, I'm assuming that's what they mean by that. But I would think it's a little bit more than just binary two sexes.
And I don't really think you should be signing on to that, or that the promotion of pseudoscience helps the cause.
Well, also the idea that in order for something to be defined, something has to only be defined by one factor, or else it's a spectrum. Humans aren't defined by one factor. We are made up of plenty of different things that are considered to be human, but not one thing makes us specifically human.
Yes, but you're either human or not human.
Correct.
It's still binary.
There are multiple factors that classify humans, and we now know what a human is because of that. And it's like, I don't understand how anybody in their right mind can genuinely think sex is a spectrum. Like, anybody in their right mind. I understand if you're like crazy, but
How many bath bombs?
yeah, I mean, I find it hard to believe that the people working at these nonprofits genuinely believe this. Like, are we really at a point in society where
Yes.
it's dumb?
Yes.
Or are they just, I don't
Yes.
know. I guess so. I guess
Arjun,
so.
you just need to listen to trans people. That's the next point in this guide. It says, listen to trans people. Listen with an open mind and heart to the experiences of trans and non-binary people. One of the most important parts of being an ally is actively listening and holding space for understanding.
I
Sounds fair to me.
listen. I think we listen very well. It's just the problem is that we listen.
And then we listen and then we judge.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I feel like, well, people listen and then when I think a lot of people do this, including myself, is we listen to something and because it doesn't closely relate to us or because we haven't personally experienced it, we just disregard it or we try to argue against it, which is kind of what you're doing now. And I think because most people are cis, most people do not understand the trans experience. And because they don't understand it, because they do not understand what feeling dysphoria is personally like, they just immediately judge it. And that they try to argue against it because it makes them uncomfortable. Because it goes against everything that they think about sex and gender.
I would love to not listen. I would probably get what they're saying more if I wasn't listening.
They think that if we hear what you say and then it doesn't make sense, that means we're not listening.
Right.
No, I think I think when you're not listening, it's okay to not understand something. There's plenty of things I don't understand. I'm not going to sit here and act like I really understand gender dysphoria or non-binary, and that's okay. I don't personally relate to that. But I can admit that. I can admit I don't personally understand or I don't personally relate to that. But I don't go around being like, oh, you're non binary? That's such bullshit. There's only two genders, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, you're trans. That's bullshit. You know, you shouldn't be trans, blah, blah, blah. I just admit that I don't understand and then acknowledge it.
It actually just means you're not making sense.
Well, I really think the thing with like gender dysphoria and like it's hard to explain it. I can imagine it's hard to explain it, especially to cis people who don't experience gender dysphoria. It's complicated and it is hard for them to explain. But it's even harder when you are not willing to admit that it might be a real thing for them. Even if it's not a real thing for you, and even if it doesn't make sense to you, you are not willing to admit that.
But my lived experience, Brad, that's what makes it correct.
Anyway, long story short, Dylan's latest grift is not just, selling merch, selling bath bombs, which I really wouldn't have any issue with. It is also sending with them ideological propaganda that
Ideological propaganda. I mean, nothing in that list is really that extreme to me, to be honest.
I don't support and I don't think is helpful. But what do you guys think?
That's fair enough, I guess. I mean, I don't really think it's that extreme, though. I think a lot of it is just common courtesy. But that's just me. So, that's it for that video. I am done reacting to that. Please let me know in the comments if there's any videos you guys want me to react to, and I'll take a look at it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.